Welcome back. So we're back into our normal flow of things, and I've got something big to talk about today, and it's the most important skill that nobody's talking about. Because when we join a group like this, one of the things that happens all the time is people are like, hey, what's the best theme? What are the best plugins? What's the best hosting? What skills do I need? What are the best page builders? What are the best whatever? Fill in the blank with whatever the best stuff is. And we all talk about it, and that's great, but it's not the most important thing when it comes to building this six-figure web design business that you can run on your own out of your house. That's basically the whole point of our group is what can you do to build a six-figure web design business? That's like the whole point behind what we're doing. And the way that we accomplish that is by offering really great stuff to clients so that we can charge more upfront and so that we can get recurring revenue coming in. And we do that by offering something that provides dramatically better outcomes than people would otherwise get if they just went on to Squarespace or hired a cheap developer or went on to Upwork or something like that. But, and this is a really important point, the most important concept is something that we really don't talk about very much. And it's the thing that tends to hold everybody back. And so like I've been doing, this whole DoubleStack thing now for a couple of years, and I've talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And the number one thing that prevents people from having the success that they really want is confidence. It's the mindset aspect of the whole game. And that's what I wanted to talk to you today about, because last week I was in Sanibel. And so I actually joined you from Sanibel Island because I was thinking about you guys. And, I think it was Tuesday morning, I went for a walk and I saw like a half a dozen different businesses up and down the street. I was staying in a house kind of in a residential area. And, in the morning, I like to wake up and go for a walk, especially in Florida when the weather's perfect all the time. And so I walked down the street. I only walked for like a mile, and I came across at least a half a dozen different businesses with I think there was 2 different landscaping businesses, like a duct cleaning business, a pool cleaning services, a couple of different real estate agents kind of selling houses. Like they're all just standing right there out on the street, and you could walk right up to them. And that's really where the rubber hits the road, as they say, right? That's what you really need to do in order to be able to get the success flowing. You have to be able to onboard clients. That means being able to reach out to people. And that's the thing that tends to kind of be so elusive is the reaching out, is to connect to clients. It's like people like the number by far, I can't even underscore the degree to which this is by far the number one question that I get is how do I find clients? Where do I find clients? How do I find clients who are willing to invest in their own businesses? And it's surprising because there's clients everywhere. Like literally just in that walk, I was able to come across like at least a half a dozen people in like 20 minutes. And of course, they're all willing to invest in their businesses too, because they're out in the streets. I saw this van that had this, the whole van sticker thing, so it was like, really stood out for home services and so forth. Like all those people are investing in their businesses. The question is, do they want to invest with you in their business? And that's really the whole point of what we're doing here. And the number one thing that I wanted to talk about is overcoming self-doubt, or getting the confidence and the mindset really dialed in to be able to make all of this come to life for you and your business. And so let's jump into it. So overcoming self-doubt is really the number one thing, because so many times people be like, well, what if I do all of this stuff and it doesn't work? Like, what if I build the website and do all the things and and I can't do it? That's a big thing for people. And usually it's a delay tactic. It's a stalling tactic. It's a self-doubt that's not real, because most of the people that I talk to, and like all the people that I actually work with through DoubleStack, have the ability to do good things. You can't get into DoubleStack if you are a beginner. Like if you don't know how to do anything, you can't get in, because DoubleStack is about how to do great stuff for people at a high ticket price, which means you have to have a certain degree of skills in order to be able to be successful at that. And so oftentimes, if somebody's not ready for that, I'll say, hey, here are some things you can do to kind of ramp up your skills so that you can get to the point where you can deliver something that's professional and high quality. And then let's talk about how to win the clients. So, but by the time we get to talking, it's like you can already do great stuff. I mean, look at the sites that you've built. Look at your own website. Look at some of the client work that you've done. I mean, it's like you can already do great work. So why would you think that you suddenly, if someone hires you, to do great work, you suddenly forget how to do all the great work. And so that's what it really is. It's a confidence. It's a mindset issue. It's like, you know that you can do it. It's just like, if you're getting put on the spot, can you really perform at that moment? And that all comes down to your mindset. Or sometimes people will have a slight variation of this concern. So rather than saying, well, I don't know if I can do great work, they might say, well, I don't know if I can generate the right results, or something like that, where, what if I say that I can help somebody, get clients, but then I can't actually help them get clients? And that's a different question, right? So that question tends to pop up because of the old way of winning clients, which is you kind of get a lead and then you meet with the client, and then you kind of, maybe you do a little bit of research up front just to see what they're up to and who they are and what they do or whatever. But then you pretty much just sit down at the meeting and you had this discovery session, and who knows what's going to come out of that? Like, who knows what they're going to ask you to do? So it's very reasonable to have self-doubt in a situation like that. They might say, hey, what I really need you to do is manage my Google Ads campaign or something like that, which maybe that's not part of your skill set, but you could figure it out, right? Like you could say yes at the time, and then, Google it all up later and try to figure out whatever the thing is. And that's something that's very common. People do that all the time, but it's very uncomfortable to have to come to the table with confidence and to say yes for something that you really don't feel like is your forte. Maybe you don't have a lot of experience in. Maybe you even know someone who could do that particular thing better than you, but hey, you've got the lead, you want the revenue from it. That's a thing that people do, but I don't recommend that you double down on that. In fact, try to avoid that at all costs by doing something, by making a new approach, a different strategy for connecting in with clients. So if you feel like you have self-doubt because you've been in an experience where people are, you go to a client meeting and they just start asking you all of these random things that they want you to do, and then you're like, I don't know if I can pull it together. The way to overcome that self-doubt is to restructure the way that you work with clients so that you don't put yourself into that awkward position. And that's a very real thing. So on one hand, you have this self-doubt where people are like, well, I don't know if I really want to go out and talk to clients, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if I can do great work. When, of course, you already can do great work. So that's one issue. But the other issue is, are you intentionally or maybe even accidentally putting yourself in a position where you're going to feel a lot of self-doubt because you don't know what's going on. You don't know what they're going to ask you to do. You don't know what you're supposed to, bring to the table. And if that's the case, that's a different situation where you're going to need to change the structure behind how you onboard new clients so that you don't put yourself into that situation. And that's a huge thing that we work on in DoubleStack, which is like, how can you come to the table already 100% prepared to release something infinitely better than what would normally come out of a traditional discovery session or a strategy session where you just sort of brainstorm on the spot to try to figure out what to do. And so that's a huge part of the marketing. When you do that, you end up attracting a different caliber of client. Like you don't have to do discovery. In fact, one of the main things that I say all of the time is stop having strategy sessions and discovery sessions if you're going to be in the business of high ticket consulting. Now, if all you want to do is you just want to go out there and build websites for people, and that's pretty much it, then fine. Just show up at the meeting, ask them what they want, and then just try to nod your head as they go down the list of the things that they want, and then you do the things, and then hand them over to the client, and then they take them and do with them as they will. But that's not high ticket consulting. I don't think you're going to find that very fulfilling. It's certainly not going to get the best results for your client, because after you do all the stuff, all the implementation work, then what's next? What are they going to do with it? Are they better digital marketers than you? Do they have the skills that they need to actually run with what you just gave them? Or would you be better suited for that? And of course, most of the time, the client doesn't have any idea what they're doing, and you would be a much better fit for that. So with all of that kind of as the foundation, one way to overcome self-doubt is to change the way that you attract clients, and only attract clients who are going to want you to do your best stuff. And that's a huge thing. That's probably the biggest, most fundamental thing that we talk about in DoubleStack is you and I work together to figure out how do you attract clients that only want you to do your best stuff. And the big shift is to stop just spreading all of your services out on the table and hoping someone hires you to do one of the services, because the services are too broad in order for you to feel comfortable to say that that is my best stuff. Even something like web design, like say web design is your main thing. And so you say, I do web design, but I also do graphic design in terms of like logos and business cards and letterheads. And I can also do photography, and I can also do SEO or whatever. And so you put all of these things kind of out on the table, and then somebody comes across your website and they're like, oh, look, there's somebody who can do web design. Let me see if they can, build a website for me. And then you feel like, okay, well, I'm really good at web design. But the problem is, what if you don't necessarily even know the platform that they're coming from? What if it's a platform you're not familiar with? What if it's Drupal or something and you don't know about it? Or what if it's an industry that you don't know anything about, right? Like for me, like I'm pretty, most of my clients tend to be in like health, fitness, wellness, things like that. And if somebody came to me from that sector, I would know exactly what somebody needs to do in order to really crush it with regard to attracting clients in kind of like that health sector. If on the other hand, a client came to me because they like are into like trucking or like something that I don't know anything about, then it's like, how I can't do my best work. I don't know what to suggest. I don't really know anything to do other than just say, yeah, I can build a responsive, good looking, great website, but you're going to have to tell me all the other details. Those are two really different environments. And so what you want to do is stop marketing your services like that, because when you do, you never know what people are going to ask you for or what you're supposed to be, responsible doing. You're always learning and learning and learning. And then oftentimes even saying yes for stuff that you haven't really, developed a really confident skill set in, just so that maybe after the meeting, you can go like spend the next 5 hours on YouTube learning something. Stop doing that. At least stop doing it at that time, and instead develop a skill set that you feel really comfortable and confident in, and that will really help you overcome self-doubt. And one of the great ways to go about doing that is surround yourself with people who can help. Like surround yourself with people who can help you see what your best skill sets are, what's the best version of you? What are the most powerful things that you can really assemble to make the best outcomes for your clients? That's the idea behind all of this. And that's a huge component. We basically do 3 things in DoubleStack, and that's the second thing. The 3 things that we really put focus on are, what are the skills that you need to actually drive results rather than just building websites? So we look into marketing, we look into lead generation, we look into sales funnels and different ways to really do business development for clients from a technical perspective, meaning that it's like, what are the tools you use to generate those kinds of outcomes? Then we move into like the business perspective of how do we assemble those tools into something that you feel really, really confident in, which is what we're talking about right here, so that you don't have to go out there and just wing it all the time. And instead, you bring your best stuff every single time, and you attract clients who want all of your best stuff every single time. So we create marketing for you that attracts that type of client, so that you can go to the meetings with full confidence that you know exactly what the client really needs. And then the third thing that we do is we then work on the structure of that meeting so that you can onboard the client successfully. And so that includes like, what's a structure for the actual meeting itself? Like, what's kind of a blueprint for how to work through a conversation where you can lead your clients without being assertive, without being salesy, without being, just overpowering or anything like that, but instead to actually be genuine and concerned and show concern for your client and really bring something that's awesome for people. And what does a meeting look like for a situation like that? And not only what does the meeting look like, what does the proposal look like? Because you don't want to get into that situation like in the old days where you had this discovery session where you would say, hey, tell me what you want. And then you begin to develop this technical to-do list. And then the proposal turns into basically that to-do list with a price at the bottom. And it's just, you don't want that. That's not really helpful. That's not high value to you. It's not high value to your client. It's the thing that's going away. It's like, if that's all you're doing, Squarespace is eating your lunch. You can't do better than Squarespace. You can't outmarket Squarespace. Like, they ran a Super Bowl ad. I mean, how is your marketing going to compete with that if what you're offering is get a website, it's online, it's the hosting is included, updates, technical backups, whatever, responsive design, all of those things are bundled into Squarespace. And it's probably just as good as what WordPress would offer in terms of that technical stack. But that's not all there is. And that's only a small point. I mean, think about how many people have WordPress sites or Squarespace sites or Wix sites or whatever, but they don't have any clients. And so while we've gotten to a point where it's really inexpensive and easy and even kind of a do-it-yourselfer can pull it together to get a website, we've really given up results in the process of kind of automating the ability to get the website. And what we're doing here is saying, hey, let's bring the results. And the way that you get the results is by assembling all the things that you can do the best, which includes not only that technical foundation of getting the website, like not only kind of doing the Squarespace stuff, but in the context of your own business, but also like how can you combine all of the other things that involve like marketing, like sales funnels, drip campaigns, building a list, figuring out the marketing message, figuring out the target market for your clients, figuring out how to really get all that together so that you're driving an outcome that they would otherwise not get if they were just trying to roll it up themselves on Squarespace or whatever. And that's really the essence of where all of the value comes. And to get clarity on that, surround yourself by other people doing that very thing and by people who can look at your skill set kind of from that bird's eye view and kind of help point you in the right direction. Because a lot of times you'll find you're kind of lost in the weeds. You just know too many things. It's difficult to kind of pull yourself back and kind of get a sense for what's going on. So overcoming self-doubt is the main thing that I want to talk about. There's two other things that I wanted to bring up while we're together today, and that's perfectionism. And all of this is under the headline of the most important skill that nobody's talking about, and that's confidence. And perfectionism is actually a side effect of a lack of confidence. And here's what I mean by that. It's so many people just keep getting ready to get ready. They're just keeping themselves busy because they are too afraid to actually go out and talk to the clients and make an offer and actually present something and actually onboard the clients and actually start working with them. And we talked about some of the reasons why, self-doubt is a big part of it. It's like, what if what you do isn't good or whatever? What if, of course, it actually is? Or maybe it's a legitimate degree of self-doubt in the sense that maybe you're afraid they're going to ask you to do stuff you don't know how to do. And so we just talked about how to overcome that. Or maybe it's actual, just kind of the fear of not feeling like you know enough yet. And so that's where this perfectionism thing comes in. And so a lot of times people feel like they have to do all of the other things before they go out and start winning clients. Like, for example, they have to get a business name. They have to get a domain name. They have to get their site designed properly. And then they spend all this time wondering, well, what should the name of the business actually be? Like all of these different things. And is the logo snazzy enough to really attract clients? And, which WordPress theme should I use for my own site? And like all of this stuff that keeps you busy. And you feel like you have to do all of that. Or here's a huge one we talk about a lot, which is let me build my portfolio, right? So let me take on free work, which is going to take months and months and months of time so that I actually have this portfolio or whatever. So that then after I do all of that, I can finally go out and actually work with clients. And if you really trace this back, the root of why this happens is that mindset issue. It's the confidence issue. It's people feel like, hey, I've got to do all of these things before I'm confident enough to onboard the actual clients that I really want to work with. And so that's a big thing that's holding people back. And the truth is you don't have to do any of it. You don't even need a website in order to, make all of this stuff come together. Like I see Jim is here, and Jim's first client was like this $40,000 client that he won without even having his own website up yet. And that's amazing for a lot of people to think about, well, how would you do that? How can you win a client without a website? And the truth is you don't have to have a website. You don't have to have a portfolio. What you need is an offer that makes sense for your client. You need to offer them that outcome that we were just talking about that goes vastly beyond what you would get by just kind of, pointing and clicking your way to a site on Squarespace. It's the business consulting. It's the marketing development. It's putting it all together to generate the outcomes. And so that's what you really need. You don't have to have the portfolio. You don't have to have all of the other stuff. It doesn't matter what your business name is. Here, let me save you a ton of time. Use your name. Just put your name on the website. It doesn't really matter. Even if you already have a domain name, even if it's like the websitedesigncompany.com is your domain name, just stick your name on the website in the top left corner, and that's it. That's all you need. Just put your name there, and it'll save you tons of time, tons of money, tons of effort. And just go with that for a while. Change it later if you want to. But if you feel stuck, like, hey, I've got to get a business name in place before I can actually go win clients, just use your name. And the reason that it's a great idea to use your name is because after you meet somebody, they're going to go onto Google and type your name, your actual person name. They're not going to remember the name of like a quirky web design thing or whatever. It's the kind of thing where you just need to get something out there and then move forward with it. And then you've got it. And don't feel like you always have to learn before you can really go forth and do something. And instead of that, learn enough so that you can do something meaningful and powerful for people But even if it's a small thing, it doesn't have to be a gigantic $50,000 project of stuff. What if it's a $2,000 project of stuff? Something like that. Just feel good about it. Feel like, hey, this is a thing that people need. I can do it. Now let me go tell the people who need it what it's all about and how it works for them and why it'd be a good idea. That's all you need. And then build on that. Like, have that be like the nugget. Like, have that be like the snowball that you kind of pack together with your hands before you start rolling the snowball down the hill. And then just start throwing that out there. And then, roll up bigger snowballs later. But that's all you need. Just like get to the point where you feel like you've got something that's really great, and then offer it to clients. And if you're wondering what that is, then that's where we really go in there and talk about it, which means go out, let's get on the phone and talk about what are your skill sets. And don't throw away the most valuable component, which is oftentimes your business knowledge, your experience, the history you have in certain markets. Like, don't throw that away. Don't leave that on the shelf collecting dust while you're out there competing with Squarespace, trying to sell responsive web design. Put it all together. But a lot of times I totally understand. A lot of times it's hard to kind of get your head around all of that stuff when you're by yourself, which is the whole point. That's the point of this group. That's the point of DoubleStack. It's like, get on the phone with somebody, get in a group with somebody, and start talking about what all that stuff is so that you can really make a difference for yourself, so you can get clarity on what it means to make a difference for your clients at a higher level. Wrap a good story around that, an outcome-oriented story, not a service-oriented story, but an outcome-oriented. So that differentiates you from Squarespace and from Wix and Weebly and Upwork and Fiverr and Craigslist. You're not on the same level. You're way over that. And so let's talk about that. And that's kind of the concept behind perfectionism. It's like, don't feel like you have to learn all of the internet before you can do something powerful for somebody, because the internet's always changing and there's too much to learn. You'll never make forward progress. And again, it's not really even about the stuff. It's really a delay tactic because of confidence. So the big thing is the confidence, the mindset. I'm not really sure how many, there's probably a million ways to talk about it, but it's the most important thing of just going out and doing something and having the confidence that goes behind it. And now the third thing, and kind of like the third and maybe the final thing that I really wanted to talk about, is approach anxiety, is the way that I label it. So we talked about overcoming self-doubt, which is kind of, inwardly thinking on, am I good enough to really do something that matters? Then we talked about perfectionism, which is really kind of, it's kind of an offshoot of lack of confidence. It's like, hey, it's kind of an offshoot of self-doubt, meaning that I don't have what it takes. I have to keep getting better and better and better and better at all of the things all at the same time before I can ever take a first step. And then you end up never taking a first step. And then everything is delayed, if not permanently delayed. So that's the kind of the second thing. But then the third thing is, you might say, okay, and just kind of, pick yourself up and say, I'm going out there, I'm going to do this. I've got something that's great, but I don't know what to say when I get there. Like, I don't know how to tell the story. I don't know what to talk about. I hate selling. What if they say no? The whole approach anxiety component behind all of this. And that's a real thing. It might even be one of the biggest things. I don't know which of these three things is the biggest thing. They're all huge. Everybody has self-doubt. Even if you've been doing it for 20 years, it's easy to slip into thinking that I don't know if I'm ready. What if I can't do it? Blah, blah, blah. It's easy to kind of pull back into that. It's easy to slip into perfectionism and just kind of make yourself feel busy because you're actually trying to delay having to go talk to people. And that's really what it is that's causing you to not do something. And so think about that a little bit. It's like, the next time you're at your desk and you're doing something, think to yourself, am I doing this because I absolutely have to do this before I can get a client? Or are you doing whatever that thing is because you don't feel like talking to anybody? Because you just don't feel like you want to go and really interact with people and tell them how you can help and have that conversation and, make that approach. Is that what it is that you're really delaying? And then, like a perfect example is, like, you're sitting there thinking, well, what should I call my business? Or what should my logo look like? Or what's my best theme? Or how many sites do I need in my portfolio before I get started? If those are some questions that you're thinking through, you're probably in that kind of first category of delaying before you actually take action. So think to yourself, is what you're sitting there doing really absolutely essential to get clients? And if it's not, and you do it anyway, and you keep having that same pattern on an ongoing basis, you're going to burn out. you can't sustain that. You're going to lose if that's what you do on a consistent basis. And so you need to break out of that as fast as possible. And when you do break out of it, then you want to be involved in a community that can support you, like this, like being in this group, or calling me on the phone. We can get you into DoubleStack if it's a good fit for you. And then make sure that you're continuing to make that forward progress. And that will actually give you the shortest path to success. That means that you spend the least amount of time in order to start winning the projects that you really want to be winning, which means you're bringing in money, you're sustaining yourself, you've got something that's really awesome, it's exciting, and you've got something that will last for the rest of your life. That's what you really want. And if you sit there doing stuff that's delaying that, the longer you delay it, the less likely you are to succeed, because what's going to happen is you're going to start burning through your financial resources, you're going to start burning through your emotional resources, and you're just going to run out of stuff before you actually onboard clients. And this is the main thing that drives people into a dead end. So if you're sitting there thinking that you need some help or you would like to get things rolling, but you feel stuck, the worst thing that you can do is think, well, let me just land a few more clients later and then I'll call somebody for some help, because that's the thing that's the problem. And so don't get into a situation where you feel like you're stuck, but you have to get more stuck before you can get out of it. And instead, you've already taken a great first step by getting into this group where there's tons of people that can help. And if you want to take it even another step further than that, let's get on the phone and talk about how specifically we can begin to implement some of this stuff into your business. But then there's the approach anxiety. Let's talk a little bit more about approach anxiety, because that's like the fear of approaching a client because maybe you hate the feeling of selling. And my solution for that is stop selling stuff. And the way that you stop selling things is stop focusing on yourself, stop focusing on your services, and start focusing on your client and the types of outcomes that they would like to have and what you can do to contribute to those outcomes. And then just tell them how you can help. And so now you're shifting out of selling and into serving. So you're serving somebody, you're helping them get a result that they otherwise wouldn't be able to achieve had it not been for you. And if that's what you want to do, that means you're going to have to do something different from what they could get on their own from Squarespace or from Wix or from Weebly or whatever, because those are all things that they can do apart from you. So what you want to be doing is figuring out what can you do to make better outcomes for your clients, feel confident in your ability to do those things, and then tell them what they need to do in order to achieve that degree of success. And now you're not selling anything anymore. You're just telling them how you can help. And if they agree, if they like what you're saying, and they feel like that would work for them, then do it, right? And the truth is you only need to do it like 5 to 10 times. So usually about 7 or 8 times. And you've got $100,000 a year coming in. Because most of the time you'll get clients that are paying you somewhere in the vicinity of $800 to $1,000 per month, something like that. And then you think, well, how many dollars per month do I want? And you would say, well, what if I had, $8,333 per month is $100,000 a year, right? So if you were getting $8,500, $9,000 per month coming in, you're looking at like 9 or 10 clients at like $850 per month is usually where we start. So you don't have to do it a lot. You're not doing this like 10 times a day. You're doing it like 10 times a year, something like that. And you're not selling. So you've shifted the story that you tell about yourself and about your business and about what you do away from just selling these tech services to people and into really serving them. And so, and then so some people say, well, what if they say no? What if I approach and they're like, I don't want any of that? What if they say I'm too busy? What if whatever it is, they say no? Fine, let them say no. That's totally okay. People say no to me all the time. I don't care. It's like if I tell somebody something and they don't want to do it, okay, fine, don't do it. But here's the thing that you need to understand. By default, if the outcome is them paying you to do something, if you never approach them, it's always no. By default, it's always no. So whether you approach them or whether you don't approach them, it's still no. So what you need to do is come up with something that really helps, something that you feel comfortable in and excited to do, mention it to the person, and maybe that no will flip to yes. And if you can do that, 5 or 10 times, you've got your 6-figure business. And that's the key to the whole thing. And like, maybe you have to talk to 20 people in order to get 5 people to say okay. And that's something that it's going to take some practice. Not every single person you talk to is going to say yes all of the time. And maybe they will say yes in the future. Maybe the timing is wrong. Maybe it's not a good client. It's okay for people to say no, but understand that if you don't approach, they're still saying no. right? It's no either whether you approach or whether they don't approach. The way that you flip the no to yes is to overcome self-doubt. Stop fiddling around with perfectionism all the time. Provide something that actually makes a difference. And if you're wondering what that different thing is, like how do you assemble your skills into something that's more outcome driven than it is service driven? Let's talk about that on the phone. And so that's kind of the thing. So what if they say no? Not an issue. And then the last thing that comes up is, well, okay, well, I'm gonna force my way through it. I don't really. I'm not gonna allow myself to sabotage my own business with self-doubt. I'm not gonna sabotage my own business with perfectionism. I understand that I have approach anxiety because this is kind of a new thing to me, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna make the approach, but I don't know what to say when I get there. Like, I don't know how to start the conversation. Like, for example, I started talking to you today about last week when I was walking down the street and I saw all those businesses and all those business owners kind of walking around doing the things that they do, for cleaning pools and landscaping, a tree removal service, and like all of these different companies. Well, I can't just walk up to somebody while they're trying to chop down a tree or whatever. And of course, that's true. You need to wait until it's a reasonable time to approach. But the bigger question is, well, what do I say when I get there? And you don't want to get into a situation where you're coming across as a pushy salesperson, where you're just trying to have this high pressure, buy these kind of, or here's my business card, call me if you want to. Don't do that. That's not going to work for you. Because if you jump in there with this really high pressure sales kind of, let me sell you a website kind of mentality, everyone's going to immediately throw up their defensive shield. They don't want to talk about that. You're going to be annoying them. That's not going to work. The other thing that doesn't work is just handing them your business card and hoping they call you later, because then they're going to be, oh yeah, business card, and they'll stick it in their pocket and that's the end of it. So what you do instead is you just have a conversation with people. Like, obviously use your judgment as to whether or not it's a good time. Like one of the times that one of the people that I came across was a real estate agent literally sitting in front of a house with nobody there. They're just like waiting for their client to show up, I guess, or something. I don't know what they were doing. They were just sitting in the car in front of a house and probably waiting for an appointment. That would have been perfect. Walk up to somebody like that and be like, hey, let's talk about how you're finding clients and that sort of a thing. And come with like genuine curiosity and like actually care about them and have genuine concern for themselves and for their business. Or like, what if it's the landscaping guys? They're out there in the yards and kind of just fiddling around. It's in Florida, so they're, doing all this stuff for, irrigation and all that other stuff. You could walk up to them and be like, hey, you guys do a great job with this. These yards look awesome. Do you guys, do all of the yards here? Or what do you guys do? Do you have like a whole, agreement with the neighborhood, or do you work through the HOA? How do you guys, get business? Ask them that and be complimentary. Like if they actually are doing a good job, tell them they're doing a good job. Who doesn't like to hear that? And then you're beginning to build some rapport with them, and then say, what do you guys do to kind of get more clients coming into the mix? Is this something that you're working on growing? How long have you guys been in business? Start having questions like that. And then you have a conversation going. Then they're going to start saying things to you. And then you can listen and, have a real human conversation with real people. And then when it gets to the point where, you have something that you can offer to them, say, hey, have you thought about, and then tell them what you can do to help. And if it makes sense, they're like, that makes a lot of sense. That'd be a great idea. We would love to do that. And you're telling them like how they can get, more reach for their company, how they can drive in better, more leads for themselves, or book more phone calls, or whatever it is that they do, or whatever it is they want. Couple that with what you're really good at, and you're just having this fun, no pressure, just I'm getting to know you, here I am kind of a thing. And then after the end of that conversation, rather than you're just saying, well, here's my business card, call me if you want, ask them for their information to say, hey, give me your email address real quick and let me follow up. I'll send you a quick email later tonight and you can see a little bit more about what we're talking about. And then stick them on like a little drip campaign or something for yourself, follow up or whatever with them over time. And that will win you. If you do that, you will win clients. Not maybe every single one, but again, you don't want every single one. Sometimes it'll be a bad fit. You won't make the offer anyway. Like you might walk up to them and they're just butt ads and you don't want to work with them. And so you just move on. Or you might say, hey, let me send you this email. And then maybe later, a couple of days from then, they'll get back to you and say, yeah, thanks for coming up. I remember that conversation. I was really busy that week. And now we'll go from, we'll take it from there. And other people will be right on the spot. It'll be like, that sounds awesome. That's exactly what we were looking for. You've got what we want, and they'll work with you right on the spot. So, but overcoming that approach anxiety and just going out there and talking to people and making that kind of warm lead. This is so much better, so much more effective, so much faster than trying to email random people over the internet or blasting Facebook ads for cheap websites or whatever. It's like those strategies are not going to win you high ticket long-term clients. Walking up and being nice to someone, offering something that they really care about, those types of things. First of all, the people are out there. Literally just open your door and walk down the street. And if you live in any place with people in them, there's probably going to be people providing services to them, and you'll see people and you can talk to them and then have that genuine care and curiosity and really get things going. Then you've got a great situation. And so you don't have to cram services on people, and instead you have a conversation, talk to them about the outcomes that you can help them create, and then at the end of the conversation, be like, hey, can I get your email address? I'll send you a quick email later tonight, and then we can, follow up later. And the whole thing can happen in like 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. It's not like you're trying to take their whole morning. It's like you're just introducing yourself and having a quick conversation and then making those connections. And if you do that, you will win. You will absolutely get all of my clients that I've been doing this for like 18 years. And all of my clients, except for like one or two, that's how I got them. It's like I was walking I think I told this story the other day. I was buying a piano. I bought this awesome digital piano. It's like a grand piano, but it's digital. It's a fantastic piano. And my daughter is like really great at piano. I used to play piano too. And so anyway, long story, we were buying a piano. The guy that was selling us the piano makes art out of the pianos. And like the name of his business is Pianos on the Wall, I think. And he'll take your old piano that you don't want anymore and reclaim the wood, like harvest the wood and then turn it into something. And I'd use that. I was like, hey, the piano that we currently have was this piano that I got when I was like 6 years old that like my parents bought for me when I was doing piano lessons. And I have like the piano is ridiculously loud. It's like the loudest piano I've ever heard in my entire life, which is why we needed to get a replacement piano because the children couldn't practice while everybody's trying to like live their lives. It's incredibly loud piano. So I was like, hey, well, wouldn't it be great if we could have headphones and all this other stuff? Anyway, the point is, I love the piano. It's like I have all of these memories about learning to. In fact, on the top of the piano is a little picture of 6-year-old me sitting there learning how to play the piano. I didn't want to just throw the thing away, and so I gave it to this guy, and his name is Doug. I gave it to Doug, and Doug turned the piano into this bookshelf that looks kind of like a piano, and like I can still see the keys from the keyboard, but you can like put books and stuff. It's like it's art, but it's also furniture, and it's awesome, and it's great. It's like it's a really cool thing. And so we get to talking about that, and he actually wanted a website. And I was like, but I couldn't take it on myself personally. I just got too much going on. I couldn't take the client, and it was but that's the point. It's like, and that just happened the other day. And like a couple of clients that I do have, like another client I met at a cocktail party. We went to the CPA that I use. He was merging in with another business, and he threw this cocktail party like I think it was 2 years ago, maybe. And so I was like, hey, that's a perfect place to go. First of all, it's not really a networking event. It's a cocktail party and people are having fun. But on the other hand, it's like everyone in the place, all of the people, and there's like 100 people there. It was a whole firm. It was 2 firms. It was my current CPA plus the whole firm that they were merging with. And they just threw this giant party inviting all of their clients to come there and celebrate the merger. And all of them were small business owners, every single one. And so I walked around and introduced myself to people and, had that just regular conversation, said, hey, if this is something you're interested in, let me get your email address. I'll follow up with a little extra information when I get home, and we can just take it from there, and just kind of walked around, had these conversations with people, learning about what they do and, focusing on what I can do to help. And it was awesome. And I got a client that I continue to work with. That's 2 years ago. I've had a client now for 2 years because of that. Another example, I was shopping in a naturopathic store for like supplements and stuff. And it was really cool. It's like, and it was the way I ended up there was I had a friend who wanted to buy a swimming pool. And so he's like, hey, you want to go get some lunch? I'm also shopping for a pool, and we can go get some Chipotle. And then right next door is the pool store and whatever. And so we walked in, we were looking at pools and hot tubs and stuff. And, he started talking to the guy about all these different pool things or whatever. And like, I don't want a pool. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go next door. When you're done, just go over there. I'll be over there. And so I walked next door, and it's this naturopath business. So I walk in, I'm looking around, and I'm kind of interested, I'm kind of interested in health stuff or whatever. So I start looking about, and I start talking to the owner, and she starts telling me about all the different kinds of things that they can do. And they've got this thing where they'll look at your eyeball, and they'll take this super duper close up picture of your eye, and they can read like the different kinds of coloration in your iris and stuff or whatever. I'm not entirely sure exactly how all that stuff works, but the point is we're having this conversation, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. And then I was like, she was like telling me about, hey, why don't I come in and do the thing? And they can sort of analyze you in a variety of ways to see what supplements would be most effective for you. I was like, yeah, I'd like to do that. So I went and did it. And so, now I've got this relationship. I built her website, and she's been my client for like maybe 2 or 3 years now. All because my friend wanted to buy a swimming pool, and I walked next door to the naturopath store. And you just walk in and say, hey, and just be nice, be friendly. That kind of a thing that's really all it takes. And that way you're overcoming the approach anxiety, because you're not approaching with the mindset of selling a website to someone. You're approaching with the mindset of caring about someone, learning about them, figuring out what they do, and then saying, is there anything that I can do that would genuinely help them get further down the road than they would get if I hadn't walked through the door? And then there you go. So now, with all of that in mind, the biggest thing about confidence and about the mindset and about really taking hold of your business, this is the thing. It's overcoming that confidence mindset issue of overcoming self-doubt, not delaying yourself through perfectionism and just procrastinating through perfectionism, and overcoming that approach anxiety. And so if these are things that you really feel like you want to do, head over to doublestack.net/call, and let's see how we can put all this stuff together for you so that you can make this kind of progress on your own. So if you decide that you want to work together on how to actually implement some of the things that we've been talking about, we can talk about DoubleStack, and if that's going to be a good fit for you, because what DoubleStack is it's a one-on-one mentoring program between you and me, where it's kind of a group coaching program and a one-on-one mentoring program, because I work with like 20 people at a time. So you'll be in a community of people that can really support you, as well as having that one-on-one attention where we're really figuring out how to dial all of this stuff in together, and we get your skill set ramped up. So like if you're wondering, well, what are the tools I can use to really drive results for people? Well, I'll show you like a dozen things that you can pick up really quick. I've got a team of like SEO experts and Google Ads experts that you can white label their service. So at the end of it all, you're going to have a ton of things that you can do from a technical perspective to drive great results for people. Then we work on your marketing to figure out, well, how can we talk about your business in a way that's more outcome oriented, so that you attract the right people rather than service oriented, where you don't know who you're going to attract. And then the third and final thing that we work on is that business structure. Like, how do you structure a client meeting? How do you structure a proposal? How do you structure your pricing? Like all of those structural issues to make sure you're hitting the revenue goals that you want, so that you can build a 6-figure web design business working out of your house. That's the whole goal. So now and here's I don't even know where I heard this, but this is a sentence that's really stuck with me for a long time, and I'll tell you what it is, and you can see what you think. And it's never leave the site of making a decision without taking some kind of action. So if you find yourself presented in a situation where you need to make a decision and you don't take action, you never make progress. Decide yes, decide no, but take action when there's a situation where you need to make a decision. And what I'm offering you now is, hey, if you feel like this stuff kind of sounds like something that kind of resonates with you and you want to do something about it, then head over to doublestack.net/call, and let's book a time to talk. And let's make all of this stuff come together for you so that you can have the business that you've always wanted and help clients at a much higher level. And you can do it with just a handful of clients at a high ticket price, rather than a ton of clients where you're doing like high volume work at cheap prices. So anyway, so never leave the site of making a decision without taking some form of action. So there we go. Head over to doublestack.net/call. It's great to be back with you guys. And it was fun at the beach too, but it's also great to be back here with you guys. All right, guys, here's a high five for you. Boop. And look forward to catching up again next week.